Hey, everybody. Welcome back. Happy New Year 2023. For all of us, we just started school today. So it literally was our first day back with our kiddos. And so we are excited today to bring to you a new year, a new attitude. And so we're kind of spinning off of New Year's resolution in a little bit different style today and just talking about how we can roll this year in a whole new direction. So our pitch in 2023 is let's do it different. Let's attack our classroom and our planning in a way that is creative and engaging and relevant to the world outside. The other thing that we want to look at as well, we're always big on our connections, and we kind of wanted to roll back to our connections today. Taking those connections, we started with our kids. Most of us high school teachers have a whole new batch to deal with. And so we got to build new connections. We got to build new connections within our room, but also what kind of relationships can we form within our building? One of the things that all three of us worry about in this day and age, having taught for a couple decades apiece, is keeping those new teachers making them feel engaged, keeping them in our profession that we love so much, letting them feel like they have a support system. So how can we reach out our connections within our school and in our classrooms? So I'm going to kind of toss it out here to Karisa to launch us with this planning through a creative lens to find some unexpected joy.
So we talk a lot about taking kind of, the standards that you need to teach and really looking through a creative lens and seeing how you can create something even more engaging, because we all know what needs to be taught. We know the standards that need to be addressed. But really, pushing yourself and challenging yourself to find a more creative way to present it to the students. I know Dayna will talk in a minute about the first picture, but the second picture, something as easy as, I teach geometry in 4th grade, and I teach basic geometry. But I came across this activity years ago using Twizzlers to teach geometry concepts and calling it Twizzler math. And in this picture, in the center, the boys are finding the area and the perimeter of the rectangle that they formed. And we talked about lines and different angles and letters in their name. And they had to form letters in their name with the Twizzlers and try to figure out what kind of lines existed and what kind of angles existed. And, doing that same thing on a worksheet is fine. It's fine to give a couple practice problems to really see what they know. And we know that they're going to be taking iLearn and having to use the questions on iLearn and answer it on a computer screen, but we can do things more hands-on to bring the learning full circle. And then I hear from them, oh, I used pretzels over break. I took some stick pretzels out and I did the same thing we did in class. And my parents were so impressed that I was talking geometry at home with food. So just really putting a creative lens on what you already have to teach. And then this last picture I love, Flip initiated a new update where students could access the new creative lens on their Chromebooks. So it was just on the app on phones. And this little girl, this is literally, I took it the second she was like, the lens works now. And I said, oh my goodness, look at all that mess in the background from my desk. But it really does just paint the picture of, oh, this is amazing. And so she's clicking through and she's realizing she can talk with a pencil over her face where her mouth is moving. It looks like a pencil's talking, and just all of the creative ways that we can keep the kids engaged in class. Really challenging ourselves, like Elaine said, to do something a little different out of the norm. And you don't have to master everything right away, but maybe picking one thing to try new, because you won't be disappointed. I mean, the engagement, the smiles. We actually talked recently about how great it is to have new pictures for each of these episodes where, man, isn't this great? This is what's happening authentically in our classrooms all the time. And it's STEM education, but it's good education, right? It's good teaching. It's not always about technology. It is always about engagement, though.
One thing that I would add too, taking off the Twizzler idea, I kind of do the same thing, but I'm not teaching that type of geometry. I'm teaching basic shapes. So I give them a baggie with one Twizzler, some, toothpicks, marshmallows, like you said, pretzels, and then I'll say, okay, you have to figure out how to use these items to make these shapes, either 3-dimensional or dimension or 2-dimensional, and they are trying to figure out how. Then they have to figure out that the Twizzler is basically the only one they can use to make, the circle, because it's the only one that's going to bend properly, and they have to, think that out and figure out how to make those shapes. In the first picture, too, I took. And this is going to kind of run into the next slide, but we were asked to read a certain story in our Basil, and it was on fables. And I was trying to think, how can I make this more engaging for my class? And so I said, okay, well, let's be detectives. All right, so let's. I set up books around the room where there was one area that was fables, one that was fairy tales, one that was tall tales, and then I had files, and they had to come dressed as detectives that day, and they had to work together with their buddy or their partner to figure out, as they rotated around, which ones were the fables based on the information given. And then we went into 3 groups. At those groups, there was just water and a little bit of baking soda in a container, and they took a white piece of paper and Q-tips. And then we talked a lot about, okay, each of these fables has a moral that needs to be taught. So I brought in chemistry. They had to take the baking soda and the water, mix it together, take their Q-tip and write on a white piece of paper, not the moral of the story. And then we put them over to dry. We went to lunch. We came back from lunch. Then I had them take alcohol and I think it's tarragon it's a kitchen spice, and they had to mix it with measuring cups and mix it together. And then they painted that over someone's moral that they had, and it revealed the moral of the story that was a hidden ink there, and it revealed it. And then I just had them bring it up to me, and I put down if they knew the moral of the story we talked about or not. And so it was a quick check for me also, but it made this silly fable from the Basil story so much more exciting and engaging. And so as we go on to the next slide, that's one thing that we are talking about. Jazz up your Basil. They want, your school corporation wants you to use the stories that, they purchase for you. But I tend to only read that story once that entire week almost, because most of the time, it doesn't play fair the way I want it to. And it's hard for the kids to read. So we read different level books, but I may pull something from the Basil. And right there, you can see them painting with the tarragon and the alcohol, trying to find the mystery word, the mystery moral to the story. But I look at the reading rule. So I say that this week we're working on the short I. So I pull out different reading, phonics reading rules that we're working on, or families. And I think, okay, how can I help them understand ick words or how can I help them understand ig words this week? And by pulling out maybe some STEM activities that we can do, we can also read about maybe an animal or read about something in real life that relates to that story. So in the first picture, you can see boys who are testing out their food carriers, because we read Ant and the Grasshopper, which is another fable. Just a few weeks ago, we had Elaine's friends from the high school that are a part of her HOSA group come, and they brought real giant grasshoppers that they brought to our kids and sat down with them, and our kids dissected and checked out all the different parts of the grasshopper. And then we talked about how the ant was carrying food back and forth and working super hard. But so then we did a design process on how can we, if we were the ant, how would we feel having to do all that work by ourselves? How can we make it a little bit easier? So my kids went through the design process and designed some kind of contraption to carry food that would carry it and dump it easier, so they can get more of that to the location that the ant would need. And so you can tell it was only a few weeks ago, because they're all like in coats, and they had, after they designed it, we went outside and they had to go through the entire playground and make sure they didn't drop the items that were inside to show if it was a acceptable device for them to carry and help the ant. So you can take a simple story from your basil and make it into something even more exciting. Like maybe take like the ant and the grasshopper, for instance, and take an Ozobot. And we did this with ants, and then we also did it with the Grinch that stole Christmas. We had to make the Ozobot come from where the Grinch lived all the way down to Whoville and back to the mountain carrying gifts. And then the Ozobot had to be programmed to do that. And we did that with the ants. They had to get the food to their anthill with the Ozobot. So there's lots of ways you can bring in STEM activities, technology into a reading program, so then they can, coexist together and they're not a separate entity. I also bring in a lot of PLTW into the reading. We are reading about something completely different, but the phonics skill was the short U. So we did activities on the sun and light, and I brought in PLTW lessons and modules with that, because we have to, we want to cover those, but where do we fit them in? You fit them in with the stories that apply to them, or you can fit them in with the reading skills. So,
yeah, and Dayna, this, this premise that you're bringing up today, this reading in your content area, and making it an experience, can be done at any age.
Absolutely.
When I started as in teacher ed forever ago, and they're like reading in your content area, I thought, whatever. It is so important, even all the way to high school, that they learn to read critically. But I tell you what, just like you said with those little guys out there in the playground, my big guys today, because I made it an activity for them, they're doing a problem solving lab right now too. They came back from school, and we're working for a group that's like the CDC, and we have to determine how an infection outbreak happened inside of a hospital. And so I got them up. They had an experience. They become a part of the team, just like you did with your kids. And then it sticks with them. One of the other things on your last slide that you guys both talked about that for is incredible 7 to 12, as well as modeling. Any kind of modeling. It doesn't have to be sophisticated if you don't have the money to buy like real models, but you can take those same Twizzlers and you can make DNA out of them, right? And the kids, because they got to manipulate something, they got to move something, because what they read came alive and they got to be a part of the experience, it makes a bigger impact on everything that they do.
And then, for instance, before Karisa talks about the middle slide, that student in the first picture, that was just one of our basal stories, had a lot of words in it where we should be where I felt like I needed to practice the ol sound. And so I had different stations around the room, and they had to read a little passage or a portion of the story, and then after they read it, then they could create the thing that I needed them to create at that station. But so at this station, each of the person and the partner had to work together and collaborate to make a marble maze out of Legos. So that was just at one of the stations. They read and then designed something. What's going on in the middle, Karisa?
So this was just an example, close to the holidays, I got cards for each of the kids to make for their parents or their family members. And then we got on Flip and they filmed the video message, just sharing with their family how much they mean to them, and glued their little Flip QR code, which ended up looking like a little gift tag. They had them formatted as gift tags for the holidays. But just, I feel like every time I'm on a piece of technology like Flip, I realize there's something else that I didn't know that it could do. And so the kids now are just coming up with ideas like, hey, when we make this, what if we put a video with it so that everybody that's interested can scan it and watch our video? Because that's a forever thing, right? They feel like, and it's a forever thing. Like, I promise these parents and family members are going to keep these cards forever and, show this video to everybody that they can find. And they're teaching their parents and their grandparents a skill, right? Because a lot of them don't understand how to scan a QR code and they don't know how to do it on their phone. And so really it reminds me when I first started getting really interested in technology and really trying a lot of things. And it became very overwhelming because I'm like, I want to be very good at Flip, but then I want to be very good at Adobe. And then I want to use this. And someone very smart one day just said to me, hey, just pick one and just get really familiar with one and feel really confident using it. And you don't have to know everything about that one, but get creative with that and then add something else to your repertoire. And so that's, we talk all the time when we're talking outside of these live streams about sharing with each other and just investigating things and get confident with something that you feel confident enough to share with others, and then learn something new from someone else. So I love to use Flip in the classroom. And so if you've not checked it out, there's about a new feature, it feels like, every day to dive in. And it just really, it can be used so diversely across the entire curriculum.
Yeah, and Karisa has really inspired me to use Flip more. So I launched the year this year. Half of my classes really shuffled kids. I got some new faces. I don't know much about them. So I did just a fun little Flip setup for them. 45 seconds, tell me 2 things and an oddity about yourself. And then not only can I watch them to learn about my new kids, but other kids in the room can learn about, the new friends. I also was really excited today because one of the new classrooms that we're visiting in the spring, the elementary teachers, I kind of threw out there, hey, we're doing this STEM challenge. How about if I set you up a Flip? It's really easy to set up. If I set you up a Flip, do you think that you'd have your kids make flips and show how their model worked? And so I got a yes for that, which I was really excited because I think what most people find, as Karisa just said, pick something and give it a try. And in regards to tech, Flip is one of them that is so easy to use. For me, I have a lot going on in my room. I don't feel like I have time to do a lot of exploring. But this one, with encouragement from Karisa and Dayna does it with first graders. So, you don't have to be super intimidated by it. You get some good stuff. I get some really good, fun videos. And it's a great way, high school, middle school teachers, when you're busy and you don't really have enough time to check in with every group, that you can assess them later when you have time to watch them. So my last picture up here, these are my girls as sophomores. I took this the day before break. Again, we're back today. So I don't have new pictures, but we're really excited that we bring to you fresh pictures every week from something that's literally happening in our rooms. because we're very passionate about what we do. We have done it through a new lens. We've made that commitment. But these girls here are modeling. And so we model the human body systems by adding them to our mannequin. And it's really neat. The kids will remember their anatomy far better because they touched it, because they made a stomach, because they added to it a brain. And so they really take these on, these creations. It's a very fun time for my kids. We call it clay therapy because they get to visit and enjoy each other and do something craftsy and artsy. But I tell you what, I know that there's a lot of you out there that feel the same pressures that we feel with testing and with performance indicators. I know some of you guys have done some of your testing here in the winter. I have high stakes tests at the end of the year. We take a national exam, and I am really, my performance is based so much on that national exam. Now, that national exam doesn't say what happened in my room. It doesn't tell any parent how much their kid learned. But that national exam is there. It's standardized. And what I have found is teaching through STEM, giving them this engaged experience has brought the test scores along. There's no doubt. They have, when my kids get to the national exam, you can almost hear their brains cranking and they go, oh, well, we did this. Oh, I played this role. Oh, I did a scenario like this. I tested that. And so we really try in our PLTW classrooms to literally plop them into the career that they're investigating. And so I know, Karisa, if you want to speak at all to the testing piece and the pressures of that as well.
I really, we all, no matter how long we've been doing this, it's almost 20 years for me. And I know it's very comparable for the both of you. We all, at some point, multiple times during the year, feel, am I doing enough? Did I really teach them that to the best of my ability? Did I dig deep enough? Did they connect? Will they recall this when it comes time? And every year, it just all comes out in the wash because they experienced it just like you said. They're drawing back from the experience. Oh, I'm going to learn about nature and about, living science. Oh, I remember when we planted that class tree and then we talked about monarch butter. Like it just all comes together. And I feel like you're teaching them to be thinkers.
Yeah.
And you're not teaching them to be test takers. You're teaching them to be thinkers because when they're a thinker and they're curious, they can put it all together. And so teaching them to be curious is one of the best skills we can share with them, and to be risk takers and to be wrong. Because how many Thomas Edisons have we heard say, I didn't find out a way it didn't work, a way it did work yet, but I found 1,000 ways it doesn't work. And so helping them learn that actually when you make mistakes, you learn more about the process. So we'll have testing anxiety because that's who we are as teachers, because teachers that care are always worried about where the kids are and if they've done a good enough job to get them prepared. But it all comes out in the end. And I think we've all seen it year after year when we are giving experiences and they are taking tangible learning chances. It's all coming out. Whether we taught them specifically that question, it doesn't matter. They're drawing on other experiences. It's like any test we've taken in college ourselves or when we're furthering our certification. You learn to be a thinker and you have to read a lot. I mean, reading has to be the core of everything, just like you said, Elaine. You got to read everything. You've got to read technical articles and you've got to read research articles and you have to read fiction pieces and nonfiction pieces. But reading is the real key to everything. So doing everything hands-on, but then really incorporating the reading piece, man, the research backs it up, right? And the key number is 20 minutes a day. So it would do all of us some good, even us as adults, to pick up a book for 20 minutes a day and go on that adventure and learn something new. So yes, I get testing anxiety. I mean, at every benchmark test, at every high stake assessment, because I read one time that teachers that care always worry about that stuff. And they are doing a good job. So they don't need to worry, but we do anyway. But yeah, teaching them to be thinkers.
Yeah.
And
I think also, I mean, we're looking at our data right now mid-year as, lower elementary, and yeah, they will eventually be taking, the iLearn or iRead and all of those things. But we're looking at our data, and I know some of my colleagues were frustrated. They're like, man, I thought that they would show a lot more growth by now. And, if you were in that same boat, how are you engaging everyone?
Yeah.
Is everyone engaged? Is everyone applying the skill, or are they just reciting back the Ing family, right? Like, are they just reciting back something to you and doing a workbook page? Like kind of with the Basil, our Basil is actually a workbook, and the stories are in the workbook, and then you do workbook pages over and over again. And most of the time, my students barely touch the workbook pages because we are engaged in some kind of activity related to that, where they have to apply the skill. Like this week is Ing. So we were ringing in the new year today. And then tomorrow we're doing open syllables and the Ing family again with, pink flamingos, because it has open syllables. And so they're applying those things when they write tomorrow, and they're reading about these birds, applying both of the skills I need to teach them this week. But it's more of where they are seeking that information, and I'm not just telling them.
Yeah, and I know that I'm a broken record every week, but STEM is the great equalizer, right? STEM and that experience and that engagement is going to bring along your students that are learning English for the first time, your students that miss a lot of school for a lot of reasons, your students that just struggle, like even in the high school, you can tell pretty quickly the kids that don't read well. So if I can bring in an experience to go with it, the success we have is amplified going into a standardized test, where a lot of those kids have a lot of anxiety over them. Okay, so new year, new attitude about the role of STEM. I'm going to kind of toss this to Karisa because she's got a really neat idea, kind of a spin-off, a different perspective on making a New Year's resolution. So I'm going to let her kind of tell you her idea, and then we can kind of talk about what our word of the year is.
And I didn't invent this idea. That's what I love about education. I'm reading articles and finding things online all the time. Last year, Flip put out a topic on your one word 2022. And I thought, man, usually I'm making this sticky note list of all these things I want to accomplish. And then I get so, it feels so daunting that by February, the list is gone, because you're like, there's no way I can do all of this. And it was just really about being intentional with the one word that's going to define you and your actions for the year. And so last year I did this with my class. We had our one word 2022. I mean, I'm talking words like kindness, and kids filming a Flip saying, our world needs more kindness. And this is what I'm going to do to make our world a better place by, spreading kindness everywhere I can. Another word was health. A student, we were still in and out and on Google Meets with COVID, and kids were being quarantined. And I just showed his video today to my class, and it was health. We need to take care of each other, and we need to take care of ourselves. And we need to get to the place where we're not wearing masks anymore. I mean, that's what he said. He just said health is so important. It's going to be so important in 2022. My word, I showed the students my video, and the student said, you kind of seem unwell in that video. I said, you know what, boys and girls, I remember this. It was right when we were trying to come back from break last year, a year ago. And I had COVID. I tested positive the day before school started, and I started feeling really badly, but I wanted them to do this one word assignment. And so I had filmed my video with my one word, that I said, look how much time, how fast time has flown and how things have changed in 1 year. But my word was present. And I told the kids present, because I felt like last year, I was not really present anywhere. I was kind of just trying to juggle balls everywhere. When I was at home, I was thinking about work a lot. And when I was at work, I was thinking about home a lot. And I said, I realized the word that needed to define me was present. Wherever I am, I just need to be present in that space. I need to enjoy that space in those moments. And then I said, present as well, like it's a homograph, right? So it's a present. Every day is a gift. Like, I think the pandemic really taught us not to take our days for granted and to really be happy with where we are in our day and to make the best of our day. And so anyway, I showed them some preview videos today and then gave them the assignment to start really thinking about the one word that could help define their year. And I thought, man, what a great way to be intentional. And so I came up with my word. I haven't shared it with the kids yet, but just connecting. I want to do even more with connecting. I have loved being a part of this group with Elaine and Dayna. We've known each other for a long time, but just connecting in this way with Yay STEM has brought us so much closer and closer to other educators and has really helped me grow as an educator. And so think about your one word that will help define your year. Create a quick flip topic for your kids to post a video to talk through their one word. You know, it's a great skill to be able to think of words and brainstorm words that really, in only one word, right? Because they're used to writing a paragraph about their goals, but they have to put it all together in one word and then, you know, explain to us what that word means to them. And so just the intentional piece when we're coming into the new year with a new attitude, being very intentional. And that was just one idea that I really loved and that I'm excited to hear what the kids' words are.
I love that idea. And I was thinking earlier about what am I going to make my word? And I decided I'm going to make mine inspire. If I can inspire kids to be better, to find a career, to find a passion, and then to have the courage to pursue that passion. I feel like inspire is a word that the three of us have been working together, it's really brought me to a new level of excitement in our craft. Getting out there and inspiring other teachers and trying to take what we've done in our rooms where we impact just our kids and seeing if we can inspire others to the same. So the last session that we had, we threw out there the idea about make a new connection. And we said that we would also make a new connection. And of course, we did it right at the end of the school year. But my picture here on the left is at is a big turning point for me and the STEM integration program that I am trying to do. This is the last elementary school I had never been invited to. So finally my word spread enough with teachers telling other teachers, oh, you've got to get Elaine and Hosa over to work with your kids. And so that is our 5th elementary school. I've been in all 5 elementary schools this fall, and I got an invite to the middle school that was wildly successful. So that was my new connection for before the start of this year.
And I want to throw this to Dayna at the end. I'm going to skip over to the picture on the right-hand side. So it's really hard to see their faces, but I love capturing moments of just shock and joy. And so their mouths are open because they opened their gift from me. And it was a copy of this book by Terry Lynn Johnson, Sled Dog School. And quite honestly, I was just telling the ladies this story. It was Thanksgiving break, and I had that moment where I'm like, oh my goodness, what? I haven't ordered a gift for my kids for class. What am I going to get them? And so I did the teachery thing, and I went on Scholastic, and it was like, okay, what is the cheapest book that I can find? Because I have to buy 28 copies. And Sled Dog School was one of the $2 books, and I could use my teacher points. It was like a teacher dream come true. And so when you think about a creative lens, I mean, I could have just stopped there, which is what I've usually done in the past. I order the books, I put them in the bag, and that's their gift. But I was like, I wonder if Terry Lynn Johnson is on social media. So I found her on social media. I sent her a message. She was so kind. She got right back to me. She said, absolutely, I will autograph book plates. I will personalize them. Send me your class list. list. And I'll do one better. I want to Google Meet with your class. I want to meet them when they're done with this book. I want to answer all of their questions about the book and about my writing style and where I get inspiration and my love of sled dog racing. And we'll talk about the races that I've been in. And I thought, oh my goodness, here is a path I didn't even know existed. It was not on my calendar to teach that this year. But how many things can I teach that I need to teach using this instead of what I've done in the past? And so their faces, they open the book and they're like, oh, great. Of course, our teacher got us another book. And I'm like, oh, is there anything special about that book? And then, they open the book and they're like, wait a minute, how does it have our name on it? She drew like a little paw print, told them to mush on because mushers, as I just learned, drive the dog sled. So all the things that I'm learning too, and they see it on my face. They see that I don't know all of these things. They see that I am just as excited as they are. So what did I read over break? I read this book. And now what are we going to do in class? I'm like, guys, I'm not going to force you to read this book, but if you want to read a couple chapters a week, we'll have a lunch club on Friday. We'll have a little book club. We'll talk about the book. And then let's have it done by the time we meet with her in February. So you have this book under your belt. You can ask her all kinds of questions. So it's just that extra little piece. And I know I'm a broken record, like Elaine said, but most people will not tell you no. She was ecstatic. She's sending me things the next day from Canada because she said, I wanted to get there in time for you. And so then I teach an after school STEM club and I thought, well, I need a new book for them. What else has she written that I can buy? So I sent her another message and I said, hey, I'm going to use Dog Driven in my Gears Club group. She said, absolutely. Send me the class list. I'll do book plates again. And let's get a Zoom call or Google Meet on the calendar because I want to talk to them about everything as well. So she's going to meet with them at 4 p.m. one day after school during our club time. So just asking, and it's so exciting. I'm not dreading coming to work, right? I am so excited to be here and I am so excited to learn with them. And they see that a lot of this is super fresh for me too. And I think that is, so as I kind of go into the middle picture, I'm thinking about new year, new attitude, making connections with people and making connections with staff and students, but reconnecting yourself to your passions and the things that you love. I love the outdoors. I love spending time with my family. We went to a new place over break, not super far in Indiana, Cataract Falls, probably 45 minutes south of Plainfield, but it was new and I was inspired and I saw a covered bridge and, it's a National Historic Site. And so I took a picture and I'm going to share it with the kids and talk to them and maybe they'll end up going with their family. But taking a new adventure that can nourish me so that I do have the energy to do these things in the classroom. And so taking care of yourself is by far the first thing that has to happen before you can take care of this group of students and have any energy to be excited about what's going on in the classroom. And then Dayna shared a story that I love. So here's my picture. And then she talked about her trip, but I want her to share because it is a real life story of this kind of connection and reconnection. And I know it nourished her. I could tell, the smile would not leave her face when she was telling us this story, and how she kind of took care of herself over break and had some fun connections.
Oh, that's sweet. I know we're running long on time, so I'll try to make it short and sweet too. One of the things that my husband and I did before we were married is that we took a trip together because I was fresh out of school. I had just started making my first paycheck and I was like, I need to go on spring break somewhere. And so he's like, I'll go with you and let's go somewhere new and exciting that we've never been. So we decided to venture out of the country and go to Mexico for the first time. We had never been. So we went to a little place in Cabo and tried out something new. That was 22 years ago. And finally this year, we were able to go back to the same area that we went to that time 22 years ago where he asked me to marry him. And we found the same restaurant that was there and the same beach that he proposed to me on, right there. And we got to reconnect with that location, reconnect with each other. And then I got to fulfill another item off my bucket list because we went during this time of the year so I could go whale watching. And we got to see whales in the ocean, and it was just so exciting. And that's one thing that I shared with my students today about when we were sharing what did we do kind of over break, some memorable moments. We didn't talk about what gifts they received because not everybody's receiving gifts. So what kind of memorable moments did you have? And so they shared some things, and then I shared that, and they already said, okay, when are we going to learn about whales? So that will be coming. We will be doing lessons about whales. And it's just because I was excited about something that was a passion that I had, and now I get to share it at some point with my students, and they want to know more about it. So it is great.
As we wrap up, this is where we will be next. So actually this Thursday, January 12th, we'll be at Purdue presenting during session 1. So I don't know if anyone is going to the Indiana STEM Education Conference, but look for us in session 1. And then we can't wait to learn from other STEM experts in the state as well. And then our next live stream is Monday, February 13th at 5 p.m. You can always tune in live or just go to the Keep Indiana Learning YouTube channel and subscribe and like it, and you can watch all of our episodes. And our next topic is yay for dumping the books. And then as usual, if you would like to scan this QR code and give us some feedback, feedback is really everything in life, so that you know the things that are going well and the things that you need to improve upon. So if you wouldn't mind taking time to do that, we would really love that. So here's our contact information, and then where to find us on social media. We really appreciate you tuning in tonight. It was a long one, but it was so fun to have this conversation and just to talk all things best practices in teaching. So until next time, we'll see you guys later. Thank you.
Yay, STEM!
Yay, STEM!